The Unknown Chronicles of African Americans. These are the unrevealed stories of certain African Americans that have helped change the world. Come with us on this journey as we display a few successes of those who have attributed to bringing the human race from yes we can to yes we have.
Kenneth Bancroft Clark, born 1914, and Mamie Phipps Clark, born 1917, were African-American psychologists who, as a married team, conducted important research among children and were active in the civil rights movement. They were known for their 1940s experiments using dolls to study children's attitudes about race. They found that black children often preferred to play with white dolls over black. When asked to fill in a human figure with the color of their own skin, they frequently chose a lighter shade than what was accurate. Additionally, the children gave the color white attributes such as good and pretty, but black was qualified as bad and ugly. They viewed the results as evidence that the children had internalized racism caused by being discriminated against and stigmatized by segregation. The Clark's work contributed to the ruling of the U.S. Supreme Court in the Brown v. Board of Education case of 1954. This case determined that de jure racial segregation in public education was unconstitutional.
Shirley Chisholm, born November 30th, 1924 in Brooklyn, New York, African-American congresswoman and politician. In 1968, Shirley Chisholm became the first black woman to serve in the United States Congress and did so for 13 years. Chisholm was a model of independence and honesty and has championed several issues including civil rights, aid for the poor, and women's rights. In 1964, Chisholm was elected to the New York State Assembly. During this time, Chisholm sponsored 50 bills, but only 8 of them passed. One of the successful bills she supported provided assistance for poor students to go on to higher education. In 1972, Chisholm ran for the President of the United States. Chisholm did not win the Democratic nomination, but she did win 28 delegates and gathered 152 votes at the Democratic National Convention. She is famous for this statement: "Unless we start to fight and defeat the enemies in our own country, poverty and racism, and make our talk of equality and opportunity ring true, we are exposed in the eyes of the world as hypocrites when we talk about making people free." As a result of her candidacy, Chisholm was voted one of the 10 most admired women in the world.
My candidacy is not to be regarded as a candidacy in which I can win the presidency of this country at this moment, but a candidacy that is paving the way for people of other ethnic groups, including blacks, to run and perhaps win the office.
Dr. Maurice Rabb Jr., born August 7, 1932, an African-American ophthalmologist, author, and administrator. Dr. Rabb was the first African-American ophthalmology resident at the University of Illinois Hospital and the first black president of Mercy Hospital's medical staff. Dr. Rabb founded the Comprehensive Sickle Cell Center in 1972, which for decades, the center distinguished itself as a leader in sickle cell research. Dr. Rabb served as the center's director for 16 years and accumulated more than $16 million in grants during his tenure. It was through Dr. Rabb's research in the field that it became possible to prevent retinal detachment and blindness in sickle cell patients. He was chair of the ophthalmology department at Mercy Hospital in Chicago from 1971 until 2005.
Desmond Tutu. Bishop Desmond Tutu was born October 7, 1931 in Klerksdorp, South Africa. He was ordained a priest in 1960. In 1975, he was appointed Dean of St. Mary's Cathedral in Johannesburg. and the first black to hold that position. The government of South Africa did not extend the rights of citizenship to black South Africans and instituted a system of apartheid, which meant a complete separation of the races. Each race was restricted to separate living areas and separate public facilities. Passports were required for travel within the country. Desmond Tutu refused to cooperate, but he was determined to do something to improve the life of his disenfranchised people. In 1978, he became the first black General Secretary of the South African Council of Churches. This position gave Bishop Tutu a national platform to denounce the apartheid system as evil and unchristian. His nonviolent work against the apartheid won him the Nobel Prize in 1984.
Join us next week as we continue the unknown chronicles of African Americans.